Well, happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to the Doe Show. How you doing today? My name is Dustin Tibbetts. I'm a financial advisor with Jazz Wealth Managers, and this is our show every day that we bring to you live at 1 o'clock, of course, to help you get your dough straight. Anything we can do to help. Sometimes it's really geeky stuff, sometimes it's investing stuff, and sometimes it's what we're going to talk about today, mental stuff. So I'll try to do my best. But if you're watching us for the first time, do me a favor. If I help you by the end of this video, hit the subscribe button. I am going to be speaking at some engagements next year, some conferences, the industry type conferences. And I want to do my speech on how the people under 40 actually do care about their retirement and their money and their dough, unlike every study that's out there. And so if you guys will hit the button to subscribe, I want to be able to do the speech and say, look, see the people that subscribe to this channel, and all we do is talk about money, retirement, and investing. So I want to be able to use you guys as an example. And I just found out that actually at a couple of those, I'll be able to broadcast live as well. So I want to do the speech live for you guys. So help me out, hit the subscribe button so we can prove them all wrong and show that there are people that care. And these studies are really just out there to scare you into doing things maybe that aren't in your best interest. Anyways, speaking of doing things that aren't in your best interest, spending money. Today we're going to talk briefly about spending money. I'm going to make this one short because you know what? It's not raining anymore here in Florida. It's beautiful outside, and I think we'll spend the rest of the day working outside or possibly at home. So I'm going to make this quick. Now, I'm going to reference an article today. It's actually a book. I'm going to reference a book. I don't know this lady. I'm not promoting her book or anything. I just thought it was interesting. Her name is Emily Birken, B-I-R-K-E-N. She's the author of a book called End Financial Stress Now. Now, I'll be honest with you. This book is not a light read. This book is about behavioral finance, how you handle your money as you should versus what you actually do with your money. The study of behavioral finance. We all know what we're supposed to do with our money, but what we actually do may be completely different, and people like to study that. There's a lot of great examples in this book. If it's something you want to check out, I'll give you a little overview today, and we'll see if it's something you want to look at. But again, not a promotion or anything. I don't know her. I just found this sort of interesting. Okay, here's the deal. At the end of this, I'm going to summarize everything that I said in one simple phrase, and you'll walk away understanding personal finance much better than you did when we started, okay? But to start, we're going to use some big words here. So we know that you need to save for an emergency fund. A lot of you guys are on board with that, but some of you watching may be trying to find that motivation, find the excitement, and find the knowledge to start doing that. So here's what I'm going to do for you. If you can, the first person that can email support@jazzwealth with the answer to this question, I'm going to give you, if you haven't already have it, please, if you already have it, don't submit a guess, but our budgeting class. I'm going to give you one copy of the budgeting class. It's only going to be for one person. Don't wait. Now I got to ask the question because you guys bombarded our support team last time. So here's the thing. The budgeting class teaches you all about money and exactly where to put it, whether you're buying a car, buying a house, or saving for retirement or saving for an emergency fund. It lays out exactly what to do with every dollar for those big purchases. The first person that can correctly tell me the year that I graduated from high school and wants the budgeting class, we will send you a copy of that budgeting class to help you get your dough straight, because a lot of times giving advice is great, but telling you exactly what to do is even better. So what Emily Birken is saying here is that a lot of it has to do with upstairs here, what's going on up here. And there's the study of behavioral finance. It is incredible. Quick story, I used to work for a company that used behavioral finance and neural marketing to attract their customers from other countries, right? Not even in the US. Incredible. I mean, the knowledge that goes into this, I thought it was just so cool, by the way. But anyways, there are some studies that say we are not in control of what we do with our finance. I disagree with that. There are other studies that say while we are in control, we will never be happy with our finances. And then there are other studies that say we could be trained like a dog to do exactly what we want. I'm in that category. You can be trained to do what it is you do. You were trained to use the restroom as a kid, were you not? You were trained to make dieting decisions, I hope, right? You were trained to smoke cigarettes if you did. Now you're addicted, and that's a whole different story. But you can be trained. Your wife trained you to put the toilet seat down, did she not? So I think we can train people with money, but we got to get their mind set up for it. So here I'm going to go through a few things for you and see. We're going to go through a couple of her problems that she defines in the book, and then we're also going to give her example of how to combat that, as well as my examples as well, to see what we can do. So the first thing, and this is by far the biggest word I will ever use on this channel, so get ready for it. Ready? The first issue in behavioral finance has been defined as hedonic adaptation. I don't know. I don't know how they come up with this stuff, but hedonic adaptation. And basically she's saying that this is lifestyle inflation defined. And all that means is you buy something, you get excited because you bought it, and about a week or two later, you don't care. You can't even find the damn thing, right? It's the idea of losing that gratification of buying something, and therefore you have to add to it. You've got to buy something else. You bought a house, you live in it, and you're like, you know what? Turns out it's not as nice as I thought. I'd like to buy a new house. And so you upgrade. Nobody ever makes a lateral transfer. You tend to upgrade. And it's very normal for we're talking about purchases today. It's very normal to do that because you have that lack of satisfaction and you're trying to return to that. If you ever get to read books on some of the best musicians on the planet, the famous ones, that go on tour and they play in front of millions and millions of people, there's a rush that comes from that. And when you get to study these people, when they're done touring, a lot of times the depression that they feel from that lack of response, right? So they go make dinner, they come out of their living room and they give dinner to their wives and they don't cheer and scream like they do at the concerts. They're missing right there. So what happens then is those people end up depressed, and a lot of times they go back on tour simply to keep that going, right? They need to do that, and that's why you have these bands like Earth, Wind, and Fire that just keep going. They don't need to. They just keep going because it's all they do. It's all they know at this point. So anyways, that was that. So you have this feeling of satisfaction buying something. For me, it's every Friday I buy a soda. I look so forward to it. And then, by the next Friday, usually by Thursday, I want to buy another one, right? And I want to return to that same feeling. Now, I get that there's chemicals in that. That's a different thing. But here's the thing. You know you do it. I do it. I definitely do it. I have bought things before that I'm very excited about, and then now I just don't even care. This camera being one of them that we use to do this live show. I thought I was the coolest dude on the planet. Now I'm like, what else you got? Right? So it happens. So one way to fight this, she says, is to express gratitude on the regular. You can combat hedonic adaptation to an extent by remembering what it was you were thankful for, and if you spend money on small and regular pleasures than the large ones. So I'll be honest with you, I read this and I already do this, by the way, unknowingly. So the need for me, you buy something expensive, you want something more expensive, and yada yada. I get that. I don't fall for that so much myself. I tend to want to think the opposite of the crowd, but for me, I spend money on the little things, the candy, right? So for me, I'll make those little purchases frequently. I'm sure they add up. I know they do, but I'll do the little purchases. So I like the advice here for her. Instead of having that lifestyle inflation on the big purchases, go ahead and have some fun. These Reese's right here, by the way, they're not the normal ones. They're the big ones. They're really thick, so you don't have to have many of them, but I enjoy them. All right. The other thing I would say to fight the lifestyle drift, if you're saying that you do find yourself uncomfortable with your car and you want a nicer car, you find yourself uncomfortable with your house, you want a nicer house, I would say take a brief weekend or whatever and go somewhere and do something. Now, it doesn't have to be spending money, but what they say, they used to call it on a tank full. How far can you drive on one tank of gas and see something new that you've never seen before? By doing that, you're starting to put yourself in the moment, being grateful for the moment rather than being grateful for the physical thing that you have. And by the way, when you go on that trip and you have that moment, you'll probably take something home with you, a rock or something that'll help you remember that moment. So hedonic adaptation, by far the biggest word that I will use in this show. I can promise you, right? I'm gonna keep it simple. Okay, the next thing where people tend to make poor decisions with their money is something called anchoring. Emily talks about this. So it's called anchoring, and here's what it is, right? How many times have you been to the store and you saw something that said was 49, right? And that's always like this or whatever. And then you see bigger, now 35. And you go, holy cow, that's a little bit of a deal. It was 49, now it's 35. Anchoring is referred to the process of making a financial decision with limited or pre-presented information. And what that's telling you is you don't have to do any research. The store is saying, look, it was 49, now it's 35. We're telling you that, so you don't have to use your phone. You don't have to go online and check this out because we're telling you it was this price. That was the fair price, and we're offering it to you at a discount. That's called anchoring. Your mind fixates on the 49, and you recognize this as a better deal than that. Simple math, right? But they're anchoring your mindset to that. Very, very cool concept. It's also used in the investment world very frequently to get you to focus on one thing and perceive an investment as a higher value, or to perceive a person as a higher value as well. So it's called anchoring. I think you get that one. That one's pretty simple. The idea, same with auto dealerships too. They show you the price and then they tell you they're having a sale for a lower price, which seems very, very inexpensive relative to the actual anchor price. And that's very common. The way to combat that really simply is just pick up your phone. Go on Amazon. Amazon is the anchor disruptor. They're the buster of all anchors because you saw it was 49, now it's 35, and you go, wait a minute, I could buy it on Amazon for 34, they'll ship it to me. I don't have to deal with it. So it was never really worth 49. It's just the store told you that. We're going to talk about this one later on the closing beat, but Big Lots in the news today. Big Lots is very, very good at anchoring. The way it looks is not so slick, but they are very good at anchoring, getting you to pay a round number for something when it's really not worth that round number. I think they're one of the best at it, but apparently they're not doing well. You see they're down today if you follow the stock. Okay, so Emily says, she says the same thing. Just go shopping online, research the item, and carry cash with you instead. So if it was 49, now it's 35, if you have to part with physical cash, it may tempt you to go, wait a minute, before I give you this cash, let me just verify that that's something that is of value that I want to spend money on. So there you go. Anyways, oh wait, this may be the biggest word that I use on the show. She calls it hyperbolic discounting. Whew. This must be a smart woman. Maybe we could see if she'll come have a chat with us. But hyperbolic discounting. Now what she says is that humans naturally prefer instant gratification over long-term gains. Now think about this. She says that we naturally prefer instant gratification over long-term gains. Go all the way back to the caveman days, you can understand why, right? So for instance, if someone offered you a cookie today or half a dozen cookies in a week, chances are you'd take the cookie as your first choice and you would not wait until later for the half a dozen cookies then. This is why people have such a hard time with retirement investing and emergency funds. Guys, I can't tell you how many people in the 09, 010, and 11, 010? 09, 10, and 11 went through lack of funds. And it's because they couldn't see that happening. And I don't blame them. Times were good leading up to it. You think, oh, we'll be fine. Granted, 2000 was a bit of a mess, but look, most people were like, I don't need emergency funds. I'm killing it. Real estate is killing it. Okay? There will be another issue again in the future. It may not be this year. It may not be for the next 10 years. Nobody knows. But to plan for that, you have to imagine that. It's like when we say, and I had a great, it was astrology that I took in college. I don't know. I forget what class it was, some science. But the guy tried to illustrate to us how many stars, how many planets, how many solar systems, how many galaxies there were in the, whatever you even want to call that, in the universe, right? It was beyond that, how many universes there are. And he was trying to explain that it was this non-stop thing, but your mind can't wrap around what that's like, right? There's a great episode of The Simpsons where the Simpsons start on the top of Homer Simpson's head and it zooms out, and all of a sudden they're on top of Homer Simpson's house, then the city, then the state, then the country, then the planet, and it keeps zooming out, and more stars, more galaxies, more suns and everything. And when you watch it, your mind stops understanding what's going on for a minute. It was so brilliant. It was really cool. You can't fathom what they're showing you on TV, and your mind reverts to, it's a cartoon. Because you can't picture what it's like for all of that mass to exist. And so the way he equated this to us was, he goes, you just think the number of galaxies and all of this stuff. He went through the whole thing, and he goes, think of it as the Earth is one grain of sand at the beach. Now picture how many grains of sand are on the beach. Now picture how many beaches there are, and you get a sense of what it's like for something to be so large. That's projecting into, that's doing that sort of analogy. Now think about your retirement. Some of you guys are like 27, 30, whatever you are, and you can't possibly know what 65 looks like. And because you can't picture what 65 looks like, you're willing to spend your cash today versus plan for tomorrow. It's called hyperbolic discounting, apparently. And so that's the key. You've got to at least picture the future. And the way I like to have people do this is to have fun with it. Picture something interesting. Picture being the 65-year-old that's like on a four-wheeler having a great time. Or a 65-year-old that is watching, or I don't know that this person's 65. No, I know for sure they're not 65 now. Now what I'm thinking, I have this picture stuck in my head of someone that just commented here in this class of them on a horse. Don't know why that was necessary. They were on a horse. They were enjoying themselves. They're not near retirement yet. You know who I'm talking about. And now that's in my mind. I'm like, that's pretty cool. I could be on a horse one day walking through the beach. That'd be pretty sweet. So think about it in terms of, in the future, what you'd like to do. Imagine your current age self as a 65-plus-year-old individual doing something interesting. Try to put yourself in that mindset. That'll help you. Now, Emily says you should use cash instead of credit cards to help to help you resist that temptation to spend your money and suffer the consequences later. She says it can turn into, what is that? This can, in turn, exacerbate hyperbolic discounting if you use a credit card. So, and she says use cash instead. Pretty simple suggestion there, but now you get it. So that's really it. That's all I wanted to point out to you, just a little bit about your dough. Now, I said I'd wrap this whole thing up by making it really simple for you at the end. We use a lot of big words. I don't really like using big words because most people start to gloss over in their eyes. They don't want to pay attention, and then they just run away. So in short, to wrap this up in less than 10 seconds, in order to get your dough straight, you got to get your mind right. Simple as that. Can you get your mind right around the goal that you're shooting for? Some of you want to buy a house in 5 years? We can picture that. We can get you there. We can figure that out, right? But if you don't have your mind right to then make physical actions towards getting your dough straight, it's just not going to happen. So in order to get your dough straight, got to have your mind right. You can do it. You do have the possibility of being trained, and we'll continue to keep training here if you would. That's really all I have for you. So going to wrap it up there and call it a weekend. We'll be back for the closing beat at 5 o'clock today, of course, to give you an update on the markets. A lot of interesting little stories today. Nothing too major, but a lot of interesting little stories. So we're going to cover all the stuff, show you the stock performance, and of course see how everything goes from there. If I've helped you in some way, hit the subscribe button now for me. That'd be great. I'm going to do everything I can to boost the subscriber numbers before these conferences so that we can actually show people that you care. There are people that care about their money. These studies just, they just kill me, man. They kill me. All right, we'll talk to you guys later at 5 o'clock for the closing beat. Enjoy. See you then.
Why should you choose Jazz Wealth as your retirement or long-term investing service? Our portfolios are managed by us, not some faceless mutual fund manager. Our private classes will teach you everything about investing and getting your dough straight. Best of all, our fiduciary standard means your best interest comes before ours.